In this video, we will talk about how to approach chemistry. How do we have a chemistry with chemistry? Many people have come to me and asked this question to me. How do I like chemistry? How do I bring myself to like chemistry? I find this subject to be very dry. I find this to be quite boring, sometimes intimidating. Some people come up with a very catchy phrase, chemistry is a mystery. How do I overcome this? Well, my suggestion to all of them would be this. When you open up a chemistry textbook, the first thing that intimidates you is the information overload. There's so much in a chemistry textbook. So much more than a physics textbook or a mathematics textbook. And that is the first thing that intimidates all of us. When we open it up, so many equations, so many symbols. Look at the periodic table, there are some 108 elements. How do I remember everything about everything? That is the first thing that comes to our mind, and for some people it's an instant put off. People get scared, they get intimidated, and there it ends. So, how do we get over this? If you really want to like chemistry, if you want to enjoy chemistry, how do we approach it? My suggestion for not only chemistry, but also any subject would be, when you approach a subject, you approach it like you would approach a person. You approach it as if that subject was a person. Let's take chemistry. We are talking about chemistry. You open up a chemistry textbook, you look at the periodic table. You see a lot of elements there, a lot of colored boxes, the blocks, the groups, the elements, with their symbols, a lot of numbers there, atomic numbers, atomic weights. It's very natural to get intimidated. But stop looking at them as mere elements. Start looking at them like people. Look at each element as if that element was a boy or a girl. As if that element was a person. A person with attributes. A person with likes and dislikes, wants and needs. A person with his or her own idiosyncrasies. You look at their tendencies. Once you start doing this, you will see some sort of a pattern emerging. Let me give you an example with the same periodic table. You look at the periodic table. On the left side, you have the alkali metals and the alkali earth metals. And then you have the D block elements. And then you have the P block elements. And then you have one solitary group of elements, the noble gases. Now, take a second, look at their attributes, their general characteristics. You'll be knowing those. You look at the extreme left of the periodic table, you have the alkali metal group. Now when you look at them, they are very exuberant. They want to react. Their tendency is to give away the electron. They want to be giving their electrons out. They want to be reacting. They want to be swimming around. They want to be hydrated. Right? They want to be swimming around. They want to be reacting. They want to give away the electrons to whoever is willing to take. They want to be there. They want to be in the limelight, in the action. Right? You look at the entire group. These are a group of people who have the same characteristic. That's why they are in a group. Birds of the same feather flock together. The same principle, right? That group has people with similar characteristics. Now you come to the extreme right. You look at those elements there. The inert gases, as we say, they are very content. They don't want to react with anybody. They're very happy being themselves. They have everything they need. Very saintly people, very noble people. You know? That's why we call them noble gases. That entire group has elements which are like that. That's why we call them noble gases. Now in between you have the D block elements. After the alkali metals and alkaline earth metals, you have the D block elements. These are metals. They like to give electrons. So these are givers. Right, on the left side of the periodic table, till about the middle of the periodic table, you have givers of electrons. Then once you cross the midpoint of the periodic table, and start going to the right side, you would slowly see the tendency of elements shifting from giving electrons to taking electrons. Slowly, slowly, slowly they start taking electrons. The tendency starts slowly, but becomes very voracious the moment you reach the 17th group. You go to the halogens. They are voracious takers of electrons. They don't give at all. They take. They take electrons from anyone who would give. Now you start looking at who they do chemistry with. It's just like saying, look at whom this fellow does business with. Who is he hanging out with? You will see a pattern emerging there, right? Similarly, you will see a pattern emerging here. You look at their characteristics. See who is doing business with whom. The currency is electrons, by the way. Who is doing business with whom here? You look at those halogens, chlorine, fluorine, that group. If you see, they would be doing chemistry very readily with the alkali metals. Right? Think of them as people. Alkali metals have a tendency to give. They want to be needed. They're clingy people. These are what we call codependent people. Okay, these are codependent people. They're good people, but they want to be needed. They want to be around people. They want to be needed and appreciated. Alkali metals are like that. Now we come to the halogen group. Now these are takers. I want electrons. Give me electrons. Hungry for electrons. These are takers. You could call them narcissists. Self-centered, always pulling electrons towards themselves. You know? Narcissists. Among humans, we tell, codependent people attract narcissists. Right? The same thing happens here. They have great chemistry going together. Look at their chemistry. Go read up the chemistry with this perspective. You would start seeing these patterns emerging. Now you have the D block elements in between. These are like the normal day-to-day people that you would see. They tend to give electrons. Even if nobody comes and takes, they tend to share electrons among themselves. You go to the Fermi model, you would see what is called the sea of electrons, all that. These are beautiful things. These are beautiful concepts. You can read up. So these are the D block elements, largely metals. And then you have the P block elements. These are takers of electrons, non-metals. Together, they form chemistry. This is like a marriage. Somebody gives, somebody takes, they form the chemistry. Look at them as people. Who does business with whom? And then quietly sitting somewhere beneath all these groups, you would see a small group of people sitting there quietly. Very powerful group of people. We would call them the F block elements, the lanthanides and the actinides. You don't see them outside. They're hidden away, tucked away somewhere in between. They're there. They're important people. These are like the bureaucrats. These are like the top diplomats. They do very important things, but you wouldn't see them outside. They don't go for the limelight, but they do their job very quietly. Example is uranium. It sits there. Very important, uranium. It sits there, but it doesn't show itself out. So try to see them as people, their own needs and wants. Then you would start understanding chemistry in a completely different light. And you would start enjoying it also. Look at how these molecules are being formed. Why are they being formed? What are the types of bonds that are being formed? You have the covalent bonds, where equal sharing happens. I bring something, you bring something, both of us need it, let us share it. A couple of people doing it. And then you have a sort of partnership, a toxic kind of relationship, where I want to share, but I'm not going to contribute something. You bring and let's share. It exists. A type of bond exists like that. And then there is complete transfer of electrons from someone to someone else. That type of bond exists there. So read up on these bonds. Look at them as people doing businesses, people doing transactions between themselves, people having relationships between themselves. Once you start doing this, chemistry will become colorful. You can start having fun with chemistry. This is how you get intimate with any subject, not only chemistry. This is how I used to enjoy chemistry. This is my tip for you to have chemistry with chemistry.